And here's Jeff. On to you, Brad.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you all here in just a little bit. And Jeff Dickerson, welcome. We appreciate you coming on with us here and starting the day with us. It's pretty cool to have you.
Thanks for having me, Brad. I thought the invitation was sent to the wrong address, and it's just an honor to be part of the amazing panelists that you guys have put together this year.
Yeah, it is really cool. And again, it's great to have you a part of it. I want to spend a lot of time, obviously, talking about Spire Motorsports and where you guys are today and, everything, the climate of motorsports and NASCAR and all of that. But I do want to spend just a brief amount of time. And I guess if you could give us maybe the short version of the origin story of Spire Motorsports, because like I was saying before you came on, 7 years ago, we'd have been having a different conversation with you, not one as a team co-owner.
Yeah, I mean, such as it is, Brad. I mean, we got into team ownership by accident, right? I mean, you're obviously speaking about the our agency roots. Our agency, Spire Sports and Entertainment, we were kind of at the intersection of teams, drivers, and sponsors. And one of those teams we were working with was Furniture Row Racing, right? And so when they won the championship, they were looking to sell their charter, and we were trying to sell it for them. And we were just really excited about that opportunity because we were like, man, we're going to get this commission, and it's going to be awesome. And it was a different time. It was really difficult to sell one. We had obviously brokered plenty, but it just felt like that one was just hard to move. We almost had it sold a couple times, and then Barney and Joe met with Ty Norris, who was the president of our company then, and TJ Pusher, my partner, in Vegas, and said, hey, maybe you guys should do it. And it was like, man, that's crazy. Like, how are we gonna do that? But Brad, it was just another instance of, we're just so lucky, right? And so like our old office was on top of the old Aquesta Bank building, in Cornelius, and the bank guys used to always come up, and they walked in. It was, deathly quiet. They thought something was wrong. And we just, they were like, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh man, we got this opportunity. We just don't know how we're going to do it. And then, again, I give Ty and TJ and those guys a ton of credit, because really within 15 minutes, we had the president of the bank, the vice president of the bank, director of credit. We had everybody up there, and we had we were in the race business 2 days later. So that's kind of how it started. It's obviously grown a ton. In some ways, it was a lot simpler. Then we were just trying to get to the racetrack, but here we are. It's the 5th annual. Spire's going to improve off season, so here we are.
Which is awesome. Improve and grow and all of that. Throughout this time, you start as a race team with no race team assets, and then you grow to running a car and having another car as a satellite, trading more charters than I think any owner has traded since the system has started, to where we are today. And let's talk about that. This time last year, you had bought Kyle Busch Motorsports. You were getting ready to move into a new building. Now here we are today. You've won Rookie of the Year with Carson Hocevar. You've hired a new driver in Michael McDowell. At the end of the season last year, you brought a familiar face back, and one that took you to victory lane, and Justin Haley. Some great crew chief moves and all of that. So what are we looking forward to? What does Spire look like moving into 2025?
Yeah, the big difference, Brad, is expectations, right? I mean, all the moves that you just spoke of, I don't think we can make and not try to, and not win a race. Obviously we've been close, which is, again, it's just amazing to me, Brad, that you see what we did last year, and just the evolution of our race team, right? Where you start at Daytona and nobody expects anything. Then all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, these guys are running up front. And then by the end of the year, it was just like, yawn, nobody cares, we're up front. I mean, it's just kind of expected, right? So it's like it felt like we did 3 years in 1 year. The amount of improvement that we had for, I would say 23 to 24, we almost need to double that to go to 24 to 25. And all those moves that you made, it's one thing to just say, hey, we're going to improve. But all those moves that you just talked about are meant to, absolutely, make it more than words and make it actions. But that's for us, and bringing in Rodney and those guys, it's just like, you don't do all those moves and not win a race. So that's absolutely the goal for next season.
You know, you mentioned Rodney Childers, and I want to ask you about this because it brings me back to a conversation we had with him on Sirius XM whenever it was announced that he was moving over to your team in 2025. Anytime you're growing a business, especially the way you guys have grown Spire Motorsports, sometimes it's hard to manage that growth. And, you know, a lot of times there are hiccups along the way, and I'm sure you've had those. But what impressed me the most is in talking to Rodney and asking the why. Why this opportunity? Why go to Spire Motorsports as your next, move as a crew chief? And what he brought up was the culture. He said, I went over to the shop and I saw a few familiar faces, people that had left our team over at Stewart Haas Racing and come over in 2024. And really, in talking to them and some other people I know, they talked about the culture of Spire Motorsports and what a pleasure it is for people to literally wake up in the morning and come into work and be around a bunch of like-minded people in a company that's very well managed, from Wednesday team lunches to different things like that. But the one thing that he really focused on was not necessarily the potential for success. I think he knows that's there. But just the culture that you guys have created. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, it's not lost to me that I'm on here with you, but it's seriously like, I'm just surrounded by exceptional people, right? And I don't mean just the guys that you see and the guys that you've referenced. I mean everybody behind the scenes, sounds like a Victory Lane interview in a way, right? But it's just like I can't think enough, but it's seriously the exceptional guys from the accounting department to the marketing department to the social department to the events and the parts room. It's just like everybody is just like exceptional, which sometimes makes it look like I know what I'm doing. But Brad, the secret is I think everybody says, man, we really value our people. Right. I don't think there's a company in the world that says, hey, we don't value our people. Right. Everybody values their people. I think at Spire, it's just not a cliche. It's just not something you put on the wall. It's something we absolutely believe. And I think that's the true measure of our success is, I think if you go to our people here and say, do they believe in you? I think they would all say yes. Right. And I think that's the culture, right? The culture is, look, there's plenty of guys here. We've talked about this, I think, in the past. There's plenty of guys here that got discarded along the way. Right. And I think sometimes that's the connective tissue is everybody here's been broken up with, right? Everybody's been, fired or told they weren't good enough and things like that. And that's the foundation of it. But I think, but we believe in them, right? And so when we see the complete puzzle, we look at a group and we're just like, this is us. This is you belong here. But I don't think it can be faked, right? I think maybe that's what Rodney's kind of talking about. It's just not. It's not faked. We absolutely believe in our people, and I think they feel it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting as you look back at the growth of Spire and everything, and this question is more framed in the what advice do you give to people? Because a lot of people might be at a crossroads in where they are in their motorsports, whether they're a team owner, sponsor, or driver, or whatever. But I think you can see places where, you and Spire have taken opportunity and grabbed it, like it's been out there, whether it was the opportunity to get that first charter, like you talked about, whether it was the opportunity to, buy Kyle Busch Motorsports, even as recent as last year, the opportunity when one team is shutting down in Stewart Haas Racing to say, hey, what can we do, to take that change and make it a great opportunity for us? What do you tell someone out there who is sitting there thinking like, boy, I might have a big decision in front of me and this could change the direction of where I'm going? You guys have actually reached out and grabbed those every time, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you talk to, any entrepreneur or some of our contemporaries that have jumped into the space, you have these moments where you just, you got to shoot your shot. You got to, you know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds so simple, but it's like you have to have the courage to just shoot your shot. I know at Spire, obviously we've had to just do it one step at a time. So we couldn't shortcut for many years, right? So for us, it may have been different. We didn't have anything to lose, so it was easy to just kind of like, it was easy to push all in when you don't have, when you have two nickels. But you know, that's what I'd say to anybody. It's just like, hey, you got to shoot your shot. You got to, you don't know the exact moment that's going to be the pivotal one for your organization. And, you know, so you work so hard to put yourself in position to get those opportunities. So when they present themselves, you got to grab them. And, you know, I think if you just do the right things, right? Like I'm a firm believer in that sometimes your opportunities choose you, right? And so like that's where, you know, if you look at anything that we've got in our solar system now, it's all happened kind of by accident, but you know, but we put ourselves in position, you know, to get lucky. And I think that's really the, you know, the biggest thing. And the other part here is, you know, you have to do it the right way, right? And you have to believe in yourself. You have to, you know, and all that is true, but you have to do it the right way. You have to do it the right way when nobody's looking, right? When you're not, you know, because that's the recipe, right? Because it's, I mean, at least to me, right? So it's like, you know, everybody out there that's like, you know, hey, should we do this? Or, hey, do we expand? Do we do this? Do we do that? It's just like, if you're doing all the right things, sometimes it'll just come back your way.
I like that. I think we could almost pull just that clip alone and send it out to everybody if they're actually, you know, wondering a question. And like you said, sometimes opportunity finds you. All right, let's talk about what we've got on the competition side. I always have been of the belief that if you're going to have a healthy multi-car race team, you're going to do it with an experienced driver. You're going to do it with a driver who might be somewhere in the middle of his or her career, whether it's the beginnings of the middle or the end of the middle, and you're going to do it with a young up and comer. And from Micah McDowell, Daytona 500 winner, multi-time winner in Cup, to Justin Haley, who you guys just brought back, to Carson Hocevar, Rookie of the Year. It seems like, at least in my model, that you have an absolutely healthy race team of everything that runs the gamut from experience to future potential.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's like you were in the meetings with us when we were kind of putting it together. I mean, that's the Michael is steady, obviously, you know, and you know, Michael's a leader. You know, I mean, I think the thing where I used to represent Michael back in the day, and I think what Michael brings to the table is a sense of urgency and desperation every day, right? Michael, you know, I just remember him as a younger driver, and I remember him sitting on my front porch one day, and this is probably in 07 or 08, saying, "I'm going to be a professional race car driver. I don't know how, right? I don't know what direction this is all going to go, but I cannot fail." You know, and that's the other part. If you can't fail, you don't. You know what I mean? If you want to, you know, the advice also, right? When failure is not an option, then it's not an option. And I think that's, you know, Michael is a real example, you know, of that. And you know, you see what Michael did at Front Row, and you know, Michael was very instrumental in building that team. And so when we were kind of like looking, how do we, you know, where do we go next? Michael was an absolute example. I mean, I think you could look in 3 or 4 years, 5 years, whenever Michael's done driving, I think you know, you'll see Michael in an executive role here. I just think he gets it, you know. Justin obviously is we think the world of Justin. I think, you know, a lot of people in that garage do. We were happy to make the trade, you know, with Rick Ware Racing there. But you know, bringing Justin home, you know, I mean, it checks a lot of boxes, you know, at least of which the personal relationship, the feel good of watching him walk back in, and him clearly seeing from the very beginning what we were, you know, to what we are to now are two different, you know, entire organizations. And look, but you know, we look at Justin. Justin's not just going to be like the middle guy here, right? And just like, you know, slow and steady. It's like we're looking for big things, you know. Obviously, pairing him with Rodney. You know, I don't think you pair somebody with Rodney and not win races. You know, Rodney's very clear. Rodney wants to, I think, I forget who got him there at the end, but somebody passed him for the most active crew chief wins. So I know that's going to be bulletin board material for Rodney. And then, you know, Carson, you know, he's our pet honey badger. And, you know, he's all gas, all the, you know, no brake all the time. But I think if you, I've been lucky enough to work with, you know, with plenty of those guys along the way. And look, if you're making noise and if people are talking about you at this age, you know, with that experience level, you are doing something right. We've seen it with Joey Logano. We saw it with Brad. We saw it with, you know, Kyle Busch. It's almost like a backhanded compliment, right? I think the challenge with somebody like Carson is you are growing up in the public eye. You know, these are when they're that young, you know, they should be at a college somewhere, you know what I mean, learning how to live. And certainly, you know, in private, right? But I mean, I think, you know, you're in a fishbowl here, and I think that's going to really be the biggest adjustment for Carson. It's not going fast. It's going to be everything that goes off the track, and I think that's up to us to, you know, kind of shepherd him through that, because he's got the driving part absolutely figured out. And again, he was, you know, he was in contention for plenty of top fives and certainly a win, you know, along the way. So we're hoping for no sophomore slump, but certainly we've got a lot of expectations for Carson in next year.
Yeah, you know, it's so I am curious to hear your side of his story, because in talking to him, obviously that big epiphany moment for him was when Corey LaJoie was asked to go fill in for Chase Elliott at Gateway when Elliott was suspended. You guys brought Carson Hocevar into your car, and before having a mechanical problem, he literally just raced his way up into the top 10. And I think a lot of people stood up and said, wow, the next thing we find out is you guys are adding him to your stable as well. How did all of that go behind the scenes, and what were the moments like for you?
Yeah, so you know, Mr. Hendrick, you know, again, like a dad to me, and I'd be dead without him. He called and said, "Hey, I have to do something here for Gateway, because I think Chase was being suspended or something." And I remember him calling and just being like, "Hey, I'd like to do Corey." And he goes, "But I don't want to mess you guys up." Right. And I was just like, "Well, are you asking me or are you telling me?" You know, so if you're telling me you're taking Corey, then awesome. We'll just figure it out. And so he was like, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I think we're going to put this I would put this Carson Hocevar kid in it." And he was just like, "Huh? Like who?" And Carson was running our Xfinity program, if you remember. We were doing that with Junior Motorsports. And so I had, again, Carson did not look out of place in the Xfinity car, right? He was racing with, you know, the Cup guys, you know, up front. And I remember, like, we were at Charlotte and Darlington. He went to Darlington. He was like in the top 5 all day, or top 10 all day. And I'm just like, what the heck? It just kind of, we were like, hey, he was fast. He had done a lot of simulator work. We were just like, let's just see how it goes. I mean, what do we have to lose, right? I mean, again, in those days, Brett, as you know, it's just like you can go all in on things because it's like, what do you have to lose? So when we put him in there, and I remember, like, I don't like sitting on the box, you know, watching these races, right? I like to go up top from, you know, spotter days and all that. And so I had a seat in the grandstand in 1 and 2 at Gateway, and just watching him pass all these guys, you know, like he was not scared to run 4 lanes up. And truly, man, I was just giggling. You know, I was absolutely just giggling in the grandstands, because it was like, what am I watching? And you know, obviously we had a brake failure. You know, I don't know that any of our brake parts had been stressed that hard up to that point. And so immediately, like, Sparks and I were like, you know, if the opportunity ever presents itself, you know, we should look at trying to get this guy in here. And so when we made a change on the 77, you know, into 2024, he's top of the list. And so it's again, it's just when they're fast like that, man, it's just like I'd rather slow them down than speed them up.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. Another example of opportunity found you in a lot of ways, and you guys also found it as well. All right, the crew chief lineup: Luke Lambert, great, very steady veteran, a winner on the Cup Series level, a very smart racing mind. You got Travis Peterson with Michael McDowell. They came over together from Front Row Motorsports. Travis Peterson, I love the fact that he is willing to take a chance, especially when it comes to strategy, and a lot of times it's paid off. And obviously, Rodney Childers, his record speaks for itself, even beyond Stewart Haas Racing when he was over at Evernham, and then later Michael Waltrip Racing, has done so much. The driver lineup is strong. The crew chief lineup is equally as strong.
Yeah. It's the same thing. They check every box. You know, I think, you know, Rodney, been there, done that. You know, the one thing I'll tell you, Brad, that I'm more impressed with Rodney now that he's here is, you know, I think, you know, everybody looks at Rodney and you're just like, you can obviously count the trophies, and you can, you know, and you see him, and there's kind of like this aw shucksy, you know, thing. Like, there is a real competitor inside, you know, Rodney Childers. And what I'm super impressed with is just his ability to connect and lead. Like, you can already see it, you know, on our shop floor. He's just able to connect with everybody. You know, Luke, All-American guy, right? I mean, just the, you know, good-looking guy, very smart. Him and Carson have a ton of chemistry, you know, together. He's just a super nice, he's a great human, but also knows how to lead that group, right? And he leads by example and this like this quiet steadiness. And then, you know, you look at Travis, right? And I look at Travis and I'm like, you know, you can't, everybody can't be like this, you know, nice guy, right? I mean, Travis is a good guy, but he's also, he'll tell you exactly what he thinks, right? And so I don't think it's bad to, you know, kind of have a rusty nail every once in a while and help push the, you know, the program forward. So, you know, when I look at those three guys, and then with Ryan Sparks and Matt McCall and Dax Garinger, I'm like, man, I think we got 6 crew chiefs, right? Now that'll either be our biggest strength or our biggest weakness. But when I look at those 6 guys, I'm like, man, you know, we've got something here. We got to continue to have the principles that we've had for years, right? Which is always like our strength has been working together, right? And that's how we kind of outkick our coverage a lot. But if we can get those 6 guys with our core principles, you know, I feel good about next year for sure.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the depth of the team. Ryan Sparks, who was a crew chief, competition director, now just gets to be a competition director, and Dax Garinger, who came over, as well as Matt McCall, who came over from RFK. I think that the depth is pretty cool. Jeff, you mentioned Rick Hendrick a couple of times throughout this conversation. What can you tell us about the partnership there and what it means to a growing team to have an alliance?
Yeah, I mean, for me, both you know, personally and professionally, it's a huge deal, right? I mean, you know, I was at Hendrick, God, man, now it's 20 years ago. This is crazy, right? So I mean, but you know, when you're a small team, kind of like moving forward in the garage, and right, and I think we're firmly in the midfield now. Look, it's a new car, but I don't think we can call it the new car anymore. You know, I mean, I think we've I don't know what year it is with it, but it's you know, the big teams are just able to develop and kind of push these things to the, you know, the nth degree. Certainly some of that trickles down, you know, to us. And so what that allows us to do is kind of be more nimble. And but we don't always, you know, in these alliances also, like for many years, like seriously, we were just takers, right? I mean, we for the last couple of years, I would say we were just takers of the alliance. I think one of the big things that me and Mr. Hendrick talked about a lot over the summer was how do we make this a true alliance where we're also giving, you know? And I think that lineup that we talked about is kind of, you know, the reaction to those conversations where it's like, how do we do this in a way where it's reciprocal and not just us taking? But certainly, you know, as a small team in NASCAR, or what we were for the last, you know, several years, you have to have it. I think you have to have it. And but what really warms my heart, I guess, Brad, is like the ownership that those guys take about our program is as humbling as anything. You know, when there is something that is, if we're not running great, you know, Chad Knaus is calling on Monday saying, what happened? You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, Mr. Hendrick's the same way. You're just like, man, don't you guys have anything else to do? You know, then be, you know what I mean? But it's just like, you know, then be worried about our small, you know, outfit over here. But it's like that level of ownership is you know, Jeff Andrews and Jeff Gordon. I mean, I could go on and on about, it's just like the amount of ownership that they take in us running well is everything to us. So, but again, I think our goal this year is to be contributors to the program, not just takers.
Yeah, and look, they've got a long history of helping build championship-winning race teams. Joe Gibbs Racing started as a Hendrick affiliate. Obviously, Stewart Haas Racing was there as a Hendrick affiliate before they switched manufacturers. Now you guys are there. I am curious, Jeff, what do you see in the longer-term version of that? I mean, it's great to have that alliance. It's great to have a partnership. Is that is this something that this is just another step in Spire Motorsports, and maybe the next step is for us to be I guess a much more independent team, for lack of a better term? Do you see a long-term goal there?
I don't know that that's the goal. Because I don't, those ties haven't been broken for 20 years, right? So I don't see that would be our long-term goal. I think, not to steal my last answer for this answer, but I think the long-term goal is to be a contributor into the program and be a bigger contributor into the whole General Motors, program. But we want to see their success as much as we want to see our success. And so I can tell you this much, Brad. It was funny. Me and Rodney were just talking about something on the shop floor. I never want to be calling Mr. Hendrick saying, "Hey, we're going to go a different direction." You know what I mean? That is something that's not in our headspace, at all. And but the long-term goal is for us to win championships and contribute to their success as well.
Yeah, and what a great way to have a program. Jeff, on the sponsorship side of things, obviously this is something where you have an extensive background as well. How does Spire Motorsports look, and what would you say about the general health of the sponsorship market right there in NASCAR?
Yeah, I'm bullish on it. I still think that the NASCAR sponsorship I still think is the best value in professional sports, right? As far as the eyeballs that you get on it and the price point that you pay. Even with the big teams, quote unquote, big teams are offering. I think that's still better than, in any professional league, as far as like the hospitality you get, the access you get, the visibility you get, and I just feel like in NASCAR you're able to talk directly to your consumer. It's not like this broad paintbrush, that maybe the NFL paints their fans in. I think in NASCAR, it's motorsports in general, really, for that matter, but certainly in NASCAR, you're talking directly to your target audience every day. For us, Brad, again, I think this is just part of our roots. There's an urgency and desperation because we couldn't afford to lose money in the past, right? So, when you can't afford to lose money, guess what? You sell sponsorship, right? And I think a lot of sales, right? There's a lot of the dog ate my homework, it's like, oh man, I had it. And then it, you know what I mean? It fell through. Where I think at Spire, where we've always kind of been, not just for us, but for the greater motorsports ecosystem, we still take deals to other teams. I think with us, there's this desperation and this urgency that we can't fail. We can't afford to lose money. So our guys sell. And knock on wood, that's always, occurred. I would say that our general climate here upstairs, as far as the sales climate, and I hope that, in other motorsports, it's the same way, is we've never been in front of more companies. We've never had as many meetings and phone calls and that we've ever, phone calls returned that we have right now. Just like everything else, you're just, you're trying to close 3 out of every 100, I suppose, right? But and that's success, I think. I think if you're closing 3 or 4 of every 100 things you got rocking, I think that's a really good percentage. So we churn through them, but where we sit, it's sometimes I'll talk to my our colleagues at other teams, and they're talking about this is hard and we're struggling here. We haven't felt it. I think we've got I think I have an exceptional sales group and marketing group here, and they make me proud every day, and they make it look like we know what we're doing.
Yeah, well, a lot of excitement with Spire Motorsports right now. We can't wait to see you guys hit the track February 2nd with the Clash up there in Winston-Salem at Bowman Gray Stadium. Jeff, thank you so much for giving us time here today. It's such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, Brad. I'll see you guys later.
EPARTRADE is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
EPARTRADE, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
EPARTRADE really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Looking for a quick fix of motorsports news? The Speed Sport Daily is what you need. It's a free racing newsletter delivered directly to your email every day. We'll cover the winners and the losers and tell you who's making news off the track. It's NASCAR, NHRA, World of Outlaw, IndyCar, and so much more. Go to speedsport.com today and get signed up for America's free racing newsletter and get your daily motorsports fix. The Speed Sport Daily.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
Scott Lewis & Associates, the sales, marketing, and branding specialist for the automotive performance industry since 1988. We get our manufacturers on track by opening an extensive distribution network, providing product training to sales staff, creating fully integrated sales and marketing strategies, building successful industry partnerships, attending trade shows, events, and races, offering first-class support to customers. SLAI delivers solutions that win you sales. To get in touch with an SLAI representative, call 516-378-6100. Go to scottlewisinc.com or email info@scottlewisinc.com.
With roots in the Midwest that date back well before the Model T, Fifth Third Bank has a long history of serving the needs of automotive companies. While much has changed over the years, our passion for helping businesses put cars on the road and on the track has not. Today, we are more committed than ever as a member of SEMA, a founding member of PRI, and a sponsor of multiple race teams across several racing series.
For over a decade, Fifth Third Bank has been a staunch supporter of our industry and a great partner for many companies in the motorsports field.
Our business has been growing extremely fast, and really we could not be where we are today without Fifth Third. They provided amazing strategic advice, the capital we need to support our phases of growth.
They are true partners for me now, and what they do with their involvement in motorsports is untouched in this community.
Where can we take your business? Fifth Third Bank.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck with Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
When it comes to pushing the limits of performance, the pros know there's no room for compromise. At Crowder Cams, we don't just engineer camshafts and valve train components, we redefine what power means. Since 1955, Crowder Cams has been the name trusted by racers, engine builders, and gearheads around the globe. Whether you're building a street machine, a dragster, or a track car, Crowder Cams provides the muscle you need to dominate. And with Crowder, victory is within your reach.
For over 25 years, Wisconsin-based C-Tech Manufacturing has been engineering and manufacturing the toughest, most accessible aluminum tool drawers, cabinets, carts, and tactical storage solutions for America's hardest working professionals. Whatever you need to store and however you need to store it, put your trust in C-Tech Manufacturing. We build it better. Visit our new website at ctechmanufacturing.com or give us a call at 715-355-8842.
If you're watching this video, you might be wondering, what is WPC? WPC is a surface treatment designed to reduce friction and increase the strength of metal parts. As much as it might seem like a coating, WPC is actually a surface treatment. Think of it like shot painting, but the media is much finer, like talc. So what you're left with is a super hard, smooth surface that actually has some proprietary dry lubricants embedded within it. For more information, visit WPCtreatment.com.